Hey everybody, happy Friday or Saturday or Sunday or Monday. I don't know when you're listening to this. We've been publishing a lot of content here at Lions of Liberty, so maybe you're behind. Hopefully you're not. But if you are, we still love you. Just wanted to talk to you for a real quick minute here and let you guys know about something cool we're doing with our friend Gret Glyer over at DonorC. Gret has an awesome platform for helping people, especially in very poor countries. And we're partnering with Gret. We are donating 10% of our Lions of Liberty Pride contributions to his coronavirus efforts. And he is targeting helping people in the poorest parts of the world to get, even simple things like hand sanitizer and cleaning supplies and being able to help them out through this very tough time. Coronavirus is tough enough on us in the first world here, as they say, just navigating through it and learning the new normal. In poorer countries, it is much, much worse. And if we can just do a little bit to help, it'll go a long way. And of course, with DonorC, you get to see the impact that your donations have. You can follow it along and get updated videos. So check out more on this initiative at donorc.com/coronavirus. And you can join the Lions of Liberty Pride by going to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty and check out everything we offer there with the bonus content and perks and merchandise and all that good stuff. Let's get to the show.
Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers, welcome back to another edition of Felony Friday, a weekly show right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. What is Felony Friday? Felony Friday is a show where every single week we're going to do a deep dive and we're going to examine and expose injustice in the broken criminal justice system. Now, if this is your first time listening to Felony Friday, your first time listening to any of the shows we have here on Lions of Liberty, sit back, relax, enjoy the show, put your feet up. If you're driving, please don't put your feet up. But if you've been back several times, if this is a regular habit of listening, why haven't you subscribed? Or maybe you have subscribed. Thank you if you subscribed. But if you haven't, please do so. Whatever podcasting app you're listening on, please just scroll up to the top there, punch that subscribe button, and you'll get every single episode of the Lions of Liberty podcast and of Felony Friday delivered to your little listening device. And also, if you really enjoy what you're hearing here, please think about giving us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcast, especially if you listen there, because it helps with the algorithms and all that crazy stuff. Without further ado, let's get rolling with today's show. All right, on today's show, I am joined by Tynice Hall. She was recently granted clemency by President Trump on February 18th of this year. This is after being denied clemency back in September 2016 from President Obama. Tynice was sentenced to 28 years and 7 months back in 2006 for charges of conspiracy to distribute and possession with intent to distribute, both nonviolent crimes. All told, Tynice served 13 years in prison after only having a minor prior misdemeanor when she was charged with these conspiracy charges. Tynice, welcome to Felony Friday.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on the show and having the courage to share your story, because I think it's very important for people to learn more about the truth about the criminal justice system and the truth about how easy it is to fall into a situation like you fell into. So we're going to get all into what happened, how you got tied up, how you got arrested and ultimately charged and convicted, and talk about your time in prison. But before we do that, just to help to set the stage for my audience so they get to know more about you, if you could just kind of start off by sharing just about your background, where you grew up, your early years, and what that was like for you.
Well, I was I'm born and raised in Lubbock, Texas. I graduated high school. I started college or whatever. I ended up getting involved with my boyfriend at a young age. Um, he was the drug dealer, the big time guy in the city, and from where I came from, like it was appealing for me to date someone like that. And that's how me and him got together. I was raised in a two-parent home. My mom and my dad. He's my stepfather. I don't know my real father like that. It's just me and my brother. Um, I had a good life. I'm not gonna say I had everything, but my mom tried her best with what we did have. So I could say I think I had an okay upbringing.
So at what age you said you got involved with a boyfriend? What age were you then?
I had got involved with him at the age of 19. When I was 19, he was 31. Me and him started talking. It was just like a small thing. My family was in the streets or whatever, and one of my older cousins introduced me to him to start like a conversation or whatever, and that's how me and him hooked up, was through my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a prior to getting convicted of the conspiracy charge. You had something with writing a bad check, or you were on probation for.
Yes, I was on probation. I had wrote a check, and one of my checks, no one else says I wrote my check, and then I called and reported it stolen on some stuff. It was some stuff that, like, the younger girls just figure out, okay, well, I can get away with buying all these clothes and then call and report it, and then they'll just put the money back in my account. Well, they called it theft of a financial instrument, and I had got deferred adjudication probation for 3 years for it. I was due to be released off deferred adjudication 2 days after I got arrested.
Wow. So when you were arrested, did you have any idea that you were at risk at that time of getting arrested, of any sort of consequences?
Back then, I always thought that I knew what he was doing, but as long as I'm not the one that's selling drugs, or I'm not the one that's touching or involved with it, my mindset was always thinking that I can't get in trouble for it. Mm-hmm. So I never knew about conspiracy. I never knew about aiding and abetting. I never knew the law. I just thought that as long as it wasn't me, I can't get in trouble for it. And being like oblivious to the law, oblivious to the federal system, is what got me where I was at. Because with me knowing what he was doing, I was just as guilty as the person that was doing it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's what most people would think. I mean, that if you're not actively out there selling drugs, if you're not the one making those transactions, that probably, I don't know, the vast majority of people would think that, you couldn't get in serious trouble for that, at least. That's what they would assume.
Yeah. But, you learn otherwise, that you can get charged with the exact same thing and you can get more time because you weren't willing to cooperate with the police to tell them what they wanted.
So what exactly happened when the house was raided? You were home alone, or was he there?
My house was raided. Me and him got into an argument the night before. It was just a little minor argument or whatever. He didn't come home that night. After then, the feds ran in my house at 6:00 in the morning, and I was home alone. Well, with me being home alone and they searched my house, they did find weapons. They found guns, and they found some drugs that he had that night prior. And I got charged with all of that, plus any past dealings that he was doing. So because it's conspiracy, they say when two or more come together and basically conspire to do something, but you don't have to know the next person that done something with it. And because me and him had a relationship, they said I conspired with him to sell drugs.
And also they put the guns on you as well?
Yes, the guns were put on me because I was at home and I was at home alone.
And I think I remember reading from your background that they did fingerprints. They tested for fingerprints on the guns. Your fingerprints weren't even found on them.
My fingerprints wasn't found on the guns. One of the guns was in close proximity to me. It was in a drawer. It was in his drawer. But because I was home alone and the house is in my name, I was charged with all of them.
So this all goes down, and you're sitting in a jail cell. Did you, at what point in time did you realize what kind of trouble you were in, what kind of sentence you were facing.
I didn't realize how big of trouble I was in until I got locked up February. So May is when they came back and told me that I was being indicted, conspiracy charges, and that I was looking at 60 years. And I couldn't believe 60 years, and I'm just a dope boy's girlfriend.
So they were basing the 60 years just off of the conspiracy and the gun charges?
The way they explained it, the way my lawyer explained it to me, it was being based off the conspiracy, the gun charges, and me not willing to take a plea, and then the amount of drugs.
Mm-hmm. So was it only you and your boyfriend at the time who were being charged, or was it a larger?
It was a big raid. When you look in the newspapers, they said it was the biggest drug raid in Lubbock, Texas, where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a big raid, and the biggest quantity came from him. And so they were basing it off the quantity that he had controlled buys with.
And just so people out there who might not understand that, when they say the quantity, that quantity could, correct me if I'm wrong, it could be based upon people who do decide to plea and then offer testimony, say, oh yeah, I bought this much, I bought that much. They just take the word for it, and now it counts. In
the federal system, word of mouth is basically golden. It's the Bible. You can say, without having actual proof, you can say that I sold you this amount of drugs, and because they took a plea and they were willing to basically tell and say that this is what you did, those numbers start calculating up. And so if you say I sold you 230 grams, and then the next person say I told you 230 grams, all those numbers become ghost dope. And that means it's basically in the air dope that has been sold, even though there's no actual proof of it.
So throughout this process, you said your lawyer, was it a public defender who you had?
I had a public defender. With him, it was just let him get it done and get it over with.
Yeah. It's so important to highlight that, the difference between being able to hire a lawyer who has experience, with drug cases like this, and having a public defender. That's the difference between, going to prison for more than 10 years, or maybe not even going to prison at all. It's an incredibly broken system. Incredibly broken.
There we go.
So when you ended up getting sentenced, well, I guess first of all, so did your boyfriend at the time, did he plea, or what happened with him?
He ended up playing out to a 27-year plea. And I just, at the time, I wasn't willing to take a plea for something for them to say that I actually sold drugs, and I wasn't willing to do it. So I ended up going to trial, and because I wasted their time, their money, I got the max.
Yeah, they throw everything at you when you go to trial.
Everything.
And you're thinking, I didn't do anything wrong. I was just sitting back there. I wasn't doing any illegal transactions. Unbelievable.
When you start reading up, like once I got incarcerated and I started reading up, there's several women that are out here with same cases like mine. Like you always think, or in the streets, you think that, okay, as long as you're not doing it, but you learn, and you learn fast once they put them handcuffs on you. So
there's still women who are in prison. Right? I see you're wearing a shirt right now that has a lot of names listed on it. Is that,
these are some of the women that are still in prison. I have my free LaShonda, free Karen. A lot of the women is with the Fed Fam for Life company. My friend Trey, Arlinda John, she's the co-founder of it. And so these are still women that they're working on. We still have like Miss Alice's release, so that shows you how old the names are. But we have the ones that are still in there that we're still fighting for. Michelle West, LaShonda Hall, Lazarus Ordaz. There's a lot of women still in there that are looking at the same things that done happened to them. We have Michelle West that has life sentences for a first-time offender.
My God. And but Alice Johnson, of course, who's sort of famous in the movement. She's been all over the media. And so did you do time with Alice in prison?
I did time with Alice in Carswell. We weren't social that much in Carswell, but in Aliceville is when we became real close. We lived close to each other, and we used to sit and talk and pray. And we had a good bond when it came to the clemency part because we both were denied the first two times by Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
And one day we were sitting and we were just talking about it, and she was asking me that I remember the time that the second time that we both got our denial letters, and we were just sitting there. And she basically was telling me that we're going to pray about it and soon we're going to be out. And I just cried and we cried together, and I just went off to my room because that was my second denial. So
Mm-hmm.
I just thought I'd never get out.
So after that time passed and you got that second denial, at what point in time did you start to see that a path towards getting out? Did you start to get some hope?
Well, after my second denial, my friend Trey Johns,
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't really, you're supposed to wait a certain time period before you file again. And she was ready to go full throttle. Like, it was time to go. She was like, okay, we're going to refile. We're going to start doing this. The Can Do Foundation started doing the White House presentations. And I love Amy Povich for that. They started doing the sit-ins. They started doing the picketing. They started doing all the different campaigning for the women. And that's when it was like, okay, something's opening. Something's happening. Because we started doing, more people started signing my petition. I started getting different letters from people. Trey wasn't going state to state to state to state, doing different kind of campaigning, helping getting more signatures for me. So when Fed Fam for Life and Can Do joined together, also with the Cut 50, it started literally opening up paths and doors to people that were oblivious to what was going on. And they started noticing that the mass incarceration was a serious problem.
Mm-hmm. It's so cool that so much of this, really prison reform movement,
Mm-hmm.
especially around nonviolent offenders, it's being driven by people who have been through the system.
Exactly.
And when they get out, they're not just sitting back and saying, "Hey, I'm out." They're turning around and saying, "Well, let's get everybody else out." So, I think that's one of the coolest parts of this whole story to see.
I love it. I love it because it's like, okay, there's no one left behind. So let's pay it forward. And what I can do to help my sisters that are still in there that's going through the same thing, it gives you hope to continue to pay it forward to the next person. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
a platform for you to say your story, to show you that there's more like us. It just didn't happen to one person. It happened to many in the prison system.
Right. So I want to turn the page back to your time in prison. You served 13 years and you were on what was your original sentence was 28 years.
My original?
So,
360 months plus 60 months.
I hate how they do it in months. It
makes you sit there and calculate like, okay, 12, 24, 36.
Yeah, counting on my fingers and toes. But, it's ridiculous the amount of time. So when you first started serving that sentence, was there anything that you can attribute to helping you deal with that, to really, fix or get your mindset right to be in order to be able to serve that time?
No, it's like you're thrown in a basement and you're there to deal with it on your own. It took like the women that you come together with the women that are there, and like you join, it becomes like a family. You get the older women that's done a lot of time and they like take you under their wing. Like when I first got locked up, I was 22. So I was angry. I was upset. I was depressed. I went through a lot of anger, like a lot of emotions that came out a lot. It makes me cry a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
But I had a lot of anger issues towards a lot of people, even the people that didn't have anything to do with it. I had a lot of anger issues. So the older women are ones that they draw to you and like, okay, well, we did this. You're going to get through this. Let's try to do this. We're going to start praying about it. We're going to start taking classes. I started doing different things like, okay, I'm not just going to let this time go to waste. And so when I would like veer off and start getting in trouble, it took the ones that become your mom, your sister, your best friends to be like, okay, so you're going to get on the right path. You're going to do this. But there was nothing that the prison system offered to help you deal with it. It's just like, you're there, you're going to do that, and we're going to start.
Yeah, that's a common theme that I hear. I've done probably, I should probably count, but I've done more than 100 interviews, probably 150 interviews with people who've been through the prison system, and it all starts with just really that personal decision, and also, yeah, like you said, people around you, people who can mentor and help you who've been through it, which is so important, and which is, once again, I'll mention it. It's so cool to see it sort of kind of continues through once you get out of prison. Turn around and it's a helping hand back. So I did want to ask you a little bit more about when you received that clemency. So you received that. I mean, this is very recent. We're in April right now, early April, and it was February 18th. Is that? But that's not the day you were actually released.
Yes, that's the day I was actually released, February 8th.
Oh, it is? Okay. So did you know it was coming that day, or how did you find out?
I didn't know. I was at work, and my unit manager called me to her office. And when I get to the office, I didn't know what was going on. She just was looking at me, and I kept asking her what was wrong. And she said she's waiting on a phone call. So we're just sitting there looking at each other, and she gets the phone call, and then she hangs up, and she says, "Well, today's the best day of your life." And I was like, "Okay." And she says, "I just got a call from the White House," and I just took off screaming. I didn't know. I just took off screaming, and they're trying to contain me, and I'm just screaming and crying. Then I just started praying about it, and they tell me that I got to be off the compound by the 4:00 count. And what that means is that they count the inmates every so many hours. So I had to be off the count because I was no longer their property. And so I had an hour and maybe 15 minutes to get everything together and be off their compound.
So this all happened in what, like just a few hours? You found out, and then you were right out the door. So how did you have time to arrange getting picked up and all that stuff?
I really didn't. Once she told me I had to be off the compound by the 4:00 count was clear. So I had called one of my friends, and then I started calling my mother, and then the president had already called my mother. Trump called my mother, and she's screaming. So I really couldn't get anywhere with her. So I had to hang up on her and call, because I'm from Lubbock and I was in Bryan, Texas. So that's over 11 hours away. My mother wasn't able to come, make it in time to come get me. So I had friends that were in Houston. And I had one of my friends, she made it just in time to come get me. They were going to put me in a hotel until someone could come pick me up. But my friend made it in time to pick me up in time to get off the compound.
So what were some of the first things you did once you got out that really was some stuff that you were just waiting to do once you got your freedom back?
I wanted to go buy real underwear. My friend took me to Target to go buy real underwear, and she bought me clothes. She got me a phone. I didn't know how to use a phone. I'm still kind of fumbling with that. And then I wanted a banana split.
Nice. So where did you go for your banana split? What's the...
Dairy Queen.
That'll work.
I went to Dairy Queen and got a banana split, and then we went to my friend's house and waited till my mom came the next morning. And that's when I met up with all my family, and my baby, my dad, my mom, my aunt. They all came, and we went to one of my cousin's house, and it was just like a mini reunion.
Yeah, that's got to be something that while you were in prison, something that you thought about a lot, what it would be like. Was it as you imagined, or what was?
I didn't get a chance to plan, when you have chance to plan, you're like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to go do that. And it was just so instant that I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. It wasn't like I had dreamed of it over and over again. I always thought about getting out, okay, I'd have to do this, and I'll have enough time to plan to do halfway house where I can do this and get this done. But I didn't get that experience. It was just dropped in a bucket. Let's go.
So is it correct that you don't have any probation that you're serving now? Or are you still?
I am on probation.
Oh,
yes, I do have 5 years probation. I've spoken with my probation officer, and we're trying to see if after a full year of clear conduct probation,
Mm-hmm.
I can apply to get off probation early. But I'm fine with doing it back being on probation. If they say walk upside down, I got it.
Mm-hmm. It's been, I mean, we were talking a little bit before the show started, but it's got to be a very unique, I mean, it's definitely unique because there's not many people in your shoes where you're coming out, you're getting your freedom, and then there's this whole thing where the entire country has to stay in their homes. So can you just share a little bit about what's that been like for you?
Well, when I first got out, like, okay, I had the plans. Okay, I'm going to try to get me a job. I'm going to try to do this, and I'm going to try to do that. Like, I had it all planned, and then it was just like, pump my brakes.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the house, but it's like something I'm used to. So it's not hard to stay in the house and stay in one place and not do anything. Yeah. I'm used to being in a room the size of a bathroom. Now I'm in a house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that hard for me.
You can probably help others with how to deal with it.
It's kind of like with my kid, like me and him play little games, or we sit on the internet and play little different stuff. He's showing me how to migrate through my phone and stuff like that. But it's put a hold on me a little bit because I really want to try to get myself together and get a job and do everything. But with all this, it's just sit down and relax.
Yeah, I mean, it is, if you look at it, because there are benefits to it. I think everybody is sort of slowing down. You know, it's causing everyone to slow down and sort of, look more towards your family and those closest to you. So it's not all bad, everything that's happening now. It's giving people a chance to pause and really sort of reevaluate their life.
Mm-hmm.
But so I want to talk about just looking forward now, looking once we get past this coronavirus stuff, and 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you see yourself? What types of things would you like to accomplish? And maybe you haven't thought about this. Maybe you have thought about it. Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, but where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
I would like to continue to work with the Can Do Foundation, the Fed Fam for Life,
mm-hmm.
the Cut 50. I would like to continue to pay it forward. I know what it's like to go through it. I know what it's like to be in it. So any way that I can help, or my story can help a person that's incarcerated or a little girl that's going through what I've went through, I just want to be able to pay it forward. If it's a juvenile, or if it's a person incarcerated, if it's one of the organizations that needs someone to come speak in regards to what I've been through, I'm willing and I'm hands in. And
I'll link to the Can Do Foundation. Can Do website is candoclemency.com. Do you happen to know the Fed Fam for Life website?
It's the fedfamforlife.org.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I'll link to both those on the show notes page, so people can go and check them out and support the work that's going on there. We've had Amy Pova on the show before, and we've had Trey on the show too with Fed Fam for Life, probably about 2 years ago. Amy was probably about 2 years ago also. But the work they're doing is just incredible.
Phenomenal. So, and it's all out of pocket phenomenal.
Yeah, they're doing this. I mean, they're not making profits off of this. This is all coming from just the goodness of their heart. So, I guess last question: is there anything else, any message that you have you'd like to convey to, maybe people out there who have loved ones in prison, who are, waiting for them to get out, or just people who just need a message of hope right now?
I can say never give up. Like, it's something I always tell Trey, like, me and her have this little saying. I sent her some little cups. And I say, God gave me this life because I was strong enough to handle it. And through my faith and through prayer is what got me through. So if you're going through a situation like this, never give up. Because there's no telling when that leaf will turn over. Just continue to fight, continue to be strong, and continue to build. Because this can happen to anybody. And anybody can be released as well. All you need is just the right people behind you. And if not the right people, just yourself to have faith with what's going on. Because it won't last forever. Nothing lasts forever.
That is the truth. And that's great advice in this this uncertain time, too, for the country. So, Tynice, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your story. And the more people that hear your story, I think it's so very important, like we talked about, because it really shows that this can happen to absolutely anyone.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me, and I thank you for inviting me to be on your show.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's show, another great episode of Felony Friday. As you know, Felony Friday is one of 3 shows we have here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. Of course, we kick off every single week with our Monday show hosted by Mark Claire. It's our longest running program, our flagship program, where Mark interviews leaders in the Liberty movement. Every Wednesday, we have Electric Liberty Land hosted by Brian McWilliams. It's your weekly shot of culture, comedy, liberty, swearing, and just good fun. Check that out. You can get all 3 shows by subscribing for the great price of $0 per month. You get everything that we have here. So please check everything out. And if you like it all, please consider supporting what we're doing here at Lions of Liberty. A great way to do that is by joining the Lions of Liberty Pride. You can do that by going to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. Another great way of doing that is by following, liking, sharing our stuff on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Lions of Liberty. On Instagram and Twitter, we are at Lions of Liberty. And the discussion forum where all the greatest and brightest minds go to talk about politics, liberty, everything that's happening in the world today, current events, the Lions of Liberty Forum on Facebook, which you can find by typing Lions of Liberty Forum in the search bar at the top of Facebook, clicking search, comes up, say you want to join it, answer a question, bam, you're in, and the rest is just going to be a great journey for you. So check that out. That's all I have for today. This is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.